Level up your LA Kings experience with Vivid Seats Elite Seats. All the on-ice Kings action with even more exclusive access and rewards. Enjoy great seats to the game in Section 103 along with Yamava Club access and parking included with your purchase. Plus, get a free Team LA Kings shop item at the game. Score your Vivid Seats Elite Seats tickets today and earn perks on each purchase from the only leading ticket company with a rewards program. Experience it live with Vivid Seats, the official partner of the LA Kings. Do you know the LA Kings have their own culinary partner? It's Superfood, celebrating 10 years and over 1 million meals served. Since 2020, the Kings have trusted Superfood to fuel their players. Now through Simply Lunch, you can bring that same performance-driven food to your office. Because when people eat better, they work better. Visit mysuperfood.com. That's mysuperfd.com. Or call 213-973-6145. Qualified companies can enjoy a free lunch for up to 10 managers.
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings.
Byfield again. Now to Moore. Out of the corner in front, wide open. Panarin, he scores! Panarin! What a shot! He's done it again!
Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
Welcome back, Kings fans. This is All the Kings Men Game 2 recap. Joining me, Jared Shafran. How are you doing today, Jared?
I'm doing great, Jesse.
You and I think, agreed mostly about Game 1. I want to give... So my notes were not nearly as comprehensive in Game 2 as they were in Game 1, and that's mostly because the game captured my attention a lot stronger than Game 1, although that 20-minute delay for the broken glass kind of distracted me. I went and made some food and came back and missed part of the game, so that's part of it. But a couple notes that I want to just throw out there before.
First of all, those of us who have spent time with the Ontario rain know about glass delays.
Yeah.
So and it's funny, a couple people talked about Josh Schaefer doing a great job on the radio filling time, and then Josh, of course, texted me and said, "Of course, I know how to do this. This is second nature." It's
funny. I was thinking about that during the timeout because I was watching the Kings TV broadcast, and I was thinking I felt so bad for Hoover and Carlin and everybody that has to basically just vamp for time. And you're burning through all of your pre-prepared bits that you maybe would have worked in through, timeouts or stoppages or whistles or whatever. And it's like, you have no idea how long it's going to take.
At least that they just showed all the replays of the glass, and that was fascinating enough. Just the way that it went down, and just the way the whole game. I know that that I am younger than you, and so this might be. This is certainly not for young people, but this is for people from my age. But the song that Linkin Park did, where it's in the end, and it's I tried so hard. I got so far, but in the end, it doesn't matter. That's kind of how these two games feel to me.
Anyway,
we can get into it.
Yeah, no, that's
I was just thinking that when I got in.
I see a little silver in your beard, not as much as mine, but it's creeping in there. I like a little salt and pepper. I like it. The thing I wanted to bring up, first of all, is I was way more positive about Game 1 than I was about Game 2. And this is this is just a me thing. I don't expect anybody else to agree with this. That I don't like nicknames. They make me uncomfortable. However, as much as everybody likes to make fun of hockey nicknames and the shortening of names or the adding of ER or E at the end, I will say I don't like nicknames, but I will find myself referring to Zach as Duels. I do refer to you as Shaff. In my mind, those are not nicknames. Those are just, that's just shorthand. Because I say that I talk to this person so many times and it's just, that's what people call them, whatever. Every time Artemi Panarin was referred to on the telecast as Breadman, I just don't like it. It's just his name is Artemi Panarin. Everybody else on the team goes by their name. His name is Panarin, not Breadman. And it's one thing if you're wow, at the trade deadline, the Kings acquire Artemi Panarin, and that's why you go get a guy like the Breadman, because blah, 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 blah. But when you're calling the game and you're Breadman up through the neutral zone, I'm nah, come on. Come on. I just don't like it. Anyway, we're going to get through the notes. Like I said, they start out and then they eventually fizzle out. So we're just going to go chronologically. Start of Game 2. No changes to the lineup. I'm not sure that I would have made no changes to the lineup, Jared. I don't have a huge problem with no changes to the lineup. I'm just not sure that's the road I would have taken.
I hear you. I think that there was definitely a world where the changes would have been perceived well. I don't think that it was like, oh my God, how did we not change the line? It wasn't so obvious that we had to change it. I don't know. The problem is for me, like, I understand the arguments of putting certain players in. I certainly understand people arguing for Taylor Ward to be reunited with Jeff Malott and Samuel Hellenius because they have had so much experience together. So I totally get that. But then your point of, well, who are we taking out? I think Matthew Joseph has shown intensity and speed, and I think he showed more of that in game 2 than game 1. Yeah. But I think I was okay. I was okay with it. I don't have any major red flag issues with not changing it, but I certainly saw the path of why you would want to.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's one of those things where, like, there was so much conversation swirling around Turcotte, Kuzmenko, Ward. Like, are you going to put these guys in? That maybe that is what alerted, sent my antenna up, and then they didn't. And I was like, huh, okay, well, all right. But without the conversation, maybe I never would have thought about it. And so I don't know. Anyway, game starts right off the bat. I really like the first shift. First shift, the Byfield line goes in, attacks. I just have good 3 exclamation points. The very first shot on goal for Colorado, I thought Forsberg gave up a really big rebound. And it made me nervous, immediately nervous. Turns out, silly me, I did not have to worry. Of all the things I didn't have to worry about last night, it was Anton Forsberg. I mentioned the Kempe penalty, but I feel like now is as good a time as any to talk about the fact that there were a ton of penalties called in the first period and early in the game. And then, like, that was it for after the first period, I thought, oh, wow, this is just going to be, I think the phrase they used on the telecast was endless parade. And then none in the second period, or 1 or 2 in the second period. And then 1 in the third. And that was it.
Yeah. It's funny, we didn't get to this yet, obviously, but in the first period, it was obviously very physical. And I thought the officials were calling penalties to try to keep control of the game, which is understandable based on the hits that were happening. And I was actually in this very studio with Jarrett Stoll, and I point blank asked him, was like, hey, do you think in games like this, playoff games where there's been a couple big hits, where guys are clearly more physically engaged, that referees will tend to try to call more penalties because they don't want to lose control of the game?
Right.
And he said, he disagreed with me. He was like, no. He was like, I don't think these penalties that are being called are because the refs are trying to control the game. I just think this is how they're calling the game. Yeah. And then, of course, later they're not calling it as
wasn't
much.
At all how they called the game.
Right, right. But you know what? That's where he was right, because he said, no, they're not trying to control the game. This is just what happened. He was like, I don't think the refs are, trying to do anything. And you know what? If they were trying to control the game, then they would call more later. So he was right and I was wrong. And I was like, well, you've won Stanley Cups and I haven't, so I'm going to shut up.
Next note I have is Forsberg keeping the Kings alive in this one. Shots on goal with 13 minutes left, and I had to change this 3 different times because as I was writing it, I looked up and it said 8-1. Then I looked up and it was 10-1, and then I looked up and it was 9-2. I was like, wait, they gave 1 to the Kings and took 1 away from Colorado. So regardless, in the first 8 or 9 minutes, I mean the whole game really, but it was obvious very quickly that Anton Forsberg was keeping them in it. Then I wrote Kempe getting booed every time he touches the puck ? At that point, I hadn't yet seen the signs posted, and obviously I'd missed some of the the commentary from Colorado about how mad everybody was at Adrian Kempe for looking at Kel McCarr. But I thought that's why you like the playoffs, right? Like, even if it's against, quote unquote, against your team, having an entire fan base boo one player every time they touch the puck it's just great. That's great.
I wonder if it seemed like it was more because of the actual actions of his on ice play, but also obviously there's that clip of him booing back at the fans from game 1. Yeah. So I feel like that almost fanned the flames. They were already mad about him hitting players and being physical, and then he's booing at people. that was from the pregame with those signs in game 2. And I love it. I mean, that's playoff hockey.
That's great.
Right? Like, you get these storylines. It's awesome. Like, that's exactly what you want.
Somebody suggested to me, and I hadn't thought about it when I first saw the signs. I was like, "Oh, that's cute. Like, good for Kings fans." You know, you wouldn't have been in LA at the time, Shaft, but in 2012, when the Kings played Vancouver, a bunch of Kings fans made signs, you know, calling the Vancouver Canucks the 2012 diving team, and you know, there was all sorts. And so I was like, "Oh, all for that." But somebody pointed out to me that the language used in the signs posted at the arena taunting Adrian Kempe felt very AI generated. Like, they didn't really feel like the way people talk. Right. Like, I think there was one example that was like, Kempe, however much money he's making per year, you know, it was 10.5 million for cardio is insane. And I was like, that's not a sign. That's barely a tweet. Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. But I thought that was funny.
Well, I guess perfect for 2026. Now we're exactly. Way beyond the 2012 era of sign making.
AI generated 2026 era. Yeah. So then I have the five forward power play written down as a note, which, you know, they didn't score early in the game, but the power play last night, listen, obviously their only goal came on the power play, but the 5-man power play, I don't have a problem with it now, whereas I did earlier in the year. Because it's different.
Not... Artemi Panarin's on it now. Yes, he wasn't before.
But also, it's not giving up momentum the way it was earlier in the year. And that's my, you know, this is Jim Fox and I have talked about this a million times. For me, it's not necessarily whether or not your power play scores. It's whether or not you're giving the other team opportunities while you're on the power play. And I don't think the Kings were doing that necessarily all that much. I mean, there were a couple shorthanded chances in this game, but I had no problem with the 5-man power play last night.
I think we have to remember that the Avalanche were the number 1 penalty killing team in the league. So I think you have to give them some credit for
sure.
I like, to be honest, I think the best thing about the 5-forward power play is that it's not our only look on the power play. So if the Avalanche have that figured out and you want to change, the team can. And how often does the team get into their rotation on the power play and it looks like they're doing the same setup and the same thing, and then the opponent figures it out? And in a 7-game series, when you're hoping that you're going to have a lot of opportunities going deep, the fact that they could switch in and out and do different things partially is because of the fact that they got Artemi Panarin, but also I like that they are not, okay, if they feel like Colorado's figured out the 5-forward power play, cool, let's switch things. Let's shift it up. Let's show them a different look. I think that allows more, and you can always go back to having Brandt Clark up there and go back to
which they did
else.
at times.
Exactly, and I love that. So that, to me, I can't complain about the power play. Obviously, you want it to be successful more than our only goals of the game, but I thought there's room for improvement. It's certainly not perfect, but it wasn't terrible either.
So the next note I wrote, this is what I'm grappling with for the whole game, and we might as well mention it now. The next note I wrote is Kings playing way more physical in Game 2, and Game 1 was already a step up from the last 20 games of the regular season, which was a huge step up from the first 60 games of the regular season. But the more I think about it, and the more the game wore on, the less I cared, and the more annoyed I became. Because if that's, to your point about the song, I came so far, and in the end, it doesn't even matter. Like, if that's the hook that we have to hang our good feelings about this Kings team on, is that, like, well, they had, 23 hits. Okay. Like, cool, I guess. Like, they had, this is the other thing. In my mind, they played more physical in Game 2 than in Game 1, but when I looked at it, they had 26 blocked shots and 23 hits. In Game 1, they had 49 hits and 22 blocked shots. So why do I feel like they played more physical in a game where they had half as many hits?
I'll tell you why. Because we had the puck more in Game 2. So they were more. I think they did than Game 1.
Maybe through the first.
I think in the second period you can clearly point to the late in the second period where it was all Colorado and the Kings were lucky to get out of that period. But other than that, I did think the Kings had more possession and some more I think what DJ Smith has talked about is holding on to pucks. It's not that they necessarily created as much, but they did hold on to pucks, and I think it did slow down. Like, I didn't feel as many of those surges for Colorado in game 2
I didn't feel as many surges, but looking at the game flow from the two different games, and maybe, like I said, maybe I'm just crazy. I just felt like last night Colorado was so clearly the better team that it felt
yes.
it felt like the narrative had been decided early in the game by, and I, like I saw Helene Elliott's recap of the game and she was echoing it. So I don't think it's like some sort of internally, forced memo telling everybody what to say. But like watching the telecast, I heard the same thing that I saw on social media and the same thing that I read independent journalists saying, which is like, oh, this game is way more physical, way more controlled. And as I was watching the game, I was like, what? In my mind, you can't praise Anton Forsberg for having a fantastic game and bailing them out of trouble and being incredible without acknowledging that the reason he needed to be that good is that Colorado was all over them all night long. Like, I don't know. I just don't think you can have it both ways.
Well, I mean, you're certain. I think all of what you said is right. The Kings were more physical. Anton Forsberg did bail them out many times and was the only reason they were in the game from a score perspective in both the first and second games. I just feel like if you're just looking at the number of hits, I think there was more big hits that stood out as like, wow, that's a big hit.
Yeah.
And there was probably more hits in the first game from the Kings, but they weren't as like memorable. And so it's probably what I'm guessing that you're seeing is that like in the first game, there's a lot of smaller hits. The second game, there was more big hits, but less hits overall.
So to that end, the next note I have is Avs fans crying, but the Anderson hit was clean. They collided, not a big deal. The Kings wind up with a power play after that, after Colorado pushes back. And the next note is Avs right to be penalized. Shut up, Avs fans. Because it was a great hit by Mikey Anderson. I don't think there was anything dirty with it. And I thought Colorado overreacted and were right to be penalized. Unfortunately, the Kings didn't score on that power play.
Completely agree with you. I think the hit was big and it was close. But I don't think there was any major, contact with the head. Clearly, Nate just came back into the game, so he wasn't injured from the hit.
Came back 2 seconds later. He didn't.
It wasn't a dirty play.
No.
The puck was there. All the things that you need to see. There was a little question of whether the elbow came up. I didn't really think there was much elbow in there at all. No. And you know what? I also think at the same time that like that's Natchez and Colorado fans have a right to be upset about it, and they should be upset about it. But they also can't be upset about the fact that their team ended up shorthanded because they ended up shorthanded because they overreacted to that hit, right. And that's the right call on the ice. But look, if you're an Avs fan, you're seeing this. The thing about it is clearly the Avs are the more talented team. The Kings have to play a certain way to stay in the game, which they've definitely done. And you're going to be frustrated about that if you're an Avs fan. You're like, our team is more skilled. Our team is better. And you're dragging us down with this slop, and you know what? That's what's happening. And you know what? The Kings are playing that game well. And their goaltender is at the head of it, obviously. But I think that's where all this, and I didn't immediately see some of this negative media reaction towards the Kings' physicality, but I became more aware of it yesterday during the day. Yeah. Then we saw those signs with Kempe. Then the way that this game was played out, like I definitely think some of this Colorado media is fueling the fire.
Have you seen, out of curiosity, have you seen the article in the Denver Gazette by Mark Kisla?
I did, yes.
Woof.
I wasn't aware, wow. to be honest, like I haven't spent a ton of time in Colorado. I love Colorado. When I've been there, it's been great. I don't know what the heck the Denver Gazette is. So I saw that. I'm like, I know what the Denver Post is. Sure. That's their major daily paper. So I was like, all right, well, it wasn't in the Daily Post. Like, it's the Daily Gazette. What even is that? And then I see, people don't know what the Daily Gazette is, so they're just going to start passing it around. It's going to gain more traction. And, I mean, that's insane. I think the weird part about that story specifically is, like, it's not labeled as opinion as much as it should be. Like, there's a lot of quotes that are like hard quotes. So it makes it seem like it's a journalistic piece because there's quotes from people, but also there's a lot of opinion. You can't have both. You got to have a journalism story.
No, it reads like a column.
It's not, but it's kind of is a column, but it's not a column at the same time. Anyway, sorry, but I did say
it's fine. So much like nicknames, there's some modern slang I love and there's some modern slang I hate. And a particular word that I'm about to use in its older context, not its newer context, and I hate that the newer context exists. The Kings, and I get it, the Kings feel like, or seem to feel like, the only chance they have to compete in this series is to go out there and goon it up. And they're doing it. And it's debatable whether or not it's working, but obviously the Avs fans are going to feel a certain way about it. Next note I have is Armia takes a penalty, can't keep getting away with 0-0 for much longer. Turns out that was not correct. So many penalties. What kind of I didn't think Landeskog's penalty against 14 apparently was, I'm not going to use the language I used in my notes, but I disagreed with that call. But again, we talked about the penalties. So I'm going to take us just straight into the second intermission, and this is where the note-taking starts to fall apart because the second period had that long.
Wait, second intermission or your second
Sorry,
period?
first intermission. First intermission,
okay.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. There's some things in the second I want to talk about.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we'll just recap the first period. At the end of the first period, the Kings had at least 2 or 3 moments where they pushed back, but the game was also very clearly, in my mind, already. Forsberg needed to be incredible in the first period and was incredible in the first period, which is where I started getting nervous that, like, oh, this is going to be a game Anton Forsberg needs to steal for them.
100%, right? And you feel like you said, you can't see if the Kings were to fall behind a real clean path for them to get back in the game. Like it's on Forsberg to keep this thing, above water because it could go downhill.
Yeah. And I saw, but I mean, obviously and this is one of the double-edged sword parts of being a fan of a franchise like the Kings that won the Cup the way they did in 2012 and 14. The constant references to 2012 Jonathan Quick, I'm already tired of. Like,
it's been 2 games.
Yeah, and let's be clear, Jonathan Quick from September to June 2011 to 2012 was unbelievable tip to tail. Anton Forsberg's been very, very, very good. Let's
have it be its own thing,
yes,
right? Like
exactly.
It's not. There's not only one type of great goaltending, right? Like let's take Jonathan Quick and give it its due.
Yeah.
And part of giving it its due is to understand that this isn't what that was. This is something completely different. This is amazing. The fact that Anton Forsberg, who had never started a playoff game, who didn't even have the confidence of his own coaching staff a couple of weeks ago, is pulling this off is phenomenal, and he deserves all the praise in the world. And 100%. It's actually, we shouldn't be comparing him to Jonathan Quick because it's not the same thing.
No, it's not even.
And
close.
he deserves his own piece of Kings history for what he's doing.
The real shame of it from Anton Forsberg's perspective is that he has a contract for next year. If he didn't have a contract and was going into a summer negotiation with this performance, like, wow. But anyway, so second period, strong start again. That's another period where the Byfield, Moore, and Laferriere line start out strong. 39 penalty, 55 penalty shot, and I wrote must score. He doesn't, and my note is, come on, dude. Now, last night was the first time, and I'm going to contradict myself later in the show, but for the first time last night, I started to hear the voice in the back of my own head echoing what I have heard from people about Quentin Byfield, which is, I'm not sure that there's a clutch gene in there. Like, obviously he's very talented. We know he's incredible and he's good, but like, there are some moments where I just think it's important for people to capitalize on. And if you don't, the moment's gone. And I was talking to Zach about this in the game 1 recap. There's a physical toll that missing on a moment takes. And the analogy I drew was like when you go up for a tee shot when you're playing golf and you just in your head, you're like, I'm going to put everything I have into this drive. And then you just flub it. It hurts. Like, it just physically hurts. and it's harder to then get up and marshal the next swing. And so I actually think it might have been a benefit for the Kings that the glass broke right then, because it gave them, I don't know, 20 minutes to recover from what I have to imagine was a physically taxing reaction to missing an opportunity to score on a penalty shot.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you in some respects. I think for QB, it's not maybe the one moment, it's the fact that it's been a lot of moments that he hasn't been able to.
Yeah.
And so they pile up on top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where it's like, oh, here we go again with, oh, this is another one of those big moments that I haven't been. I really want to capitalize on this one because I didn't get the other ones. The one thing I do want to say is that, like, I think there's a difference in those type of moments from, like, if QB had made a move that wasn't very good or missed the net, or maybe he makes a move that has the goalie down and then he misses the net, like he makes a deke and then misses the net with an open goal to shoot at, you're like, oh my God, like I messed up. But like, I didn't get the sense of that because he made the move he wanted to make. And Wedgwood made a phenomenal diving save on it. Like that puck would have gone in had the goaltender not saved it.
Yeah.
And I think there is some like you have to at least step back and say, oh man, he had that. He maybe isn't clutch because he didn't finish, but also understand that like it's not like he's a goat in the old sense of the word goat, where it's like, oh no, he's the failure, because the goaltender did make a phenomenal save. And that was like, I thought the move was great. Like it worked. It got the goalie out of position. He was a little bit better. You look at the this is maybe me coming up with an excuse for him, but like the all-time, playoff penalty shot percentage is somewhere in the 30% range. Yes. It's not like a lot of people have had these chances and also not scored on them. And I do agree that the glass thing, it just changes. The game is different after that because of that delay. Like you can't just be like, oh, we're going to go right back to that. Like nothing happened. Like the flow of the game is different. The style, like everything changed that at that moment. And I do think the Kings, I thought, responded well after that, because frankly, they still had to kill like a minute and 50 seconds of the Jeff Malott penalty. And I know they didn't have to kill. I think there was a penalty on Colorado that then negated. So we ended up playing 4-on-4. But look, the Avs could have come out ready, won the faceoff, and boom, it's in the back of the net, and the game's completely changed. The Kings were ready when they resumed from that delay, and that's you got to give them credit for that.
I wonder if the refs didn't call any penalties basically the rest of the way because there was a 20-minute delay, and they were like, "No, let's just get out of here." Like, definitely. And knowing the Kings, it's going to go to overtime, so like, let's just make this as.
But like, are we going to remember this game as like the game where glass fell on the team's head? Like it just seems like that was such a never see that. Like you've seen glass break, but not like that.
Not like that. Yeah. And I do want to say this, and this isn't just me being an old man. Arrest those people.
Were they not even kicked out?
I don't think they were, but honestly,
I feel like they were allowed back. That's insane to me.
Arrest those people. That is dangerous. I don't want to be too moralistic and crazy about it, but like, yes, it's shatterproof glass, and they went on at great length in the telecast about why it's better to have shatterproof glass so you don't have big shards of glass that might slice someone in half. But they did mention in the telecast, imagine a piece of glass had fallen down the back of DJ Smith's shirt or gotten into somebody's glove or whatever. Like, it's still glass. It's still sharp.
Andrei Kopitar is like shaking his jersey out of glass on the jersey. I mean, I think you sit in those type of seats. You have a right to do, playing on the glass happens every night, at every game, in every NHL arena. And that doesn't happen. So you did something
thousands
over
of games
the top.
a year, hundreds of years of hockey, and it's never happened before. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it's fine. Oh, they were just excited.
Yeah. No, be an adult. Like, I've sat rinkside on the glass. I've never come even
People
close
get
to
kicked out of games for doing a lot less.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. So yeah, that is basically, here we go. So then my next note after that is Avs look like a team used to winning easy that doesn't feel like putting in the work to beat LA. But LA is also not scoring. So ... And that was kind of my takeaway from the whole series. And I think it's echoed in the negative commentary that the Avs fans and media are giving about the Kings' physicality. I genuinely think that there was at least a portion of the Avs fan base, if not the roster, that kind of felt like, yeah, we're the President's Trophy winner. We have the most goals for, the fewest goals against, the best penalty kill, you know, 2 great goalies that each played half the season. Like, who are you to even show up to play in this series?
Right.
And honestly, it should be 16 goals to 2 for Colorado. And it's not. And I do think it seems to be frustrating them. The problem is, in a series where one team doesn't have the effort and the other team doesn't have the talent, it's way too easy for the team that doesn't have the talent to win.
I mean, that's the story of the series so far is the Kings have scored entirely too little goals. And whatever you want, the approach of the way that the Kings have approached it has not only kept them in the game, it's had them in position to win both games. But the reality is they have to score.
Yep.
They just have to. You can't beat Colorado by scoring 1 goal. Everyone knew that going in. If you told any person, hey, the Kings scored 1 goal in game 1 and the Kings scored 1 goal in game 2, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah,
and
it'd be 2-0.
Yeah, it'd be 2, like, oh man, I guess it didn't go too well. And the sad thing is that Anton Forsberg has played well enough for the Kings to be up 2-0 in this series.
Yeah. And my final note of the period was just, Kings have one line really going. Unfortunately, it's the fourth line. That's not a recipe for success. Avs control last 5 to 10 minutes of the second period. Forsberg is a stud. And that's really what happened. The Avs poured it on at the end of the second period.
That was maybe their best stretch of play consistently throughout in any part of the first 2 games.
Yeah.
That was like, oh boy, I don't even want to watch this because I know what's going to happen. And you know what? It's crazy that it was still 0-0 at that point because the Kings were just hanging on for dear life. They're icing the puck. They're flipping it out. They lost their structure completely. And I was worried about the third period. I said to Mikey Alexander during second intermission, who is the most positive person on the face of the earth. And I'm like, Mikey, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know how they're going to, like, after that, we're lucky to be where we are. And he's like, yeah, but it's 0-0. We're there. I'm like, we're not there. We're getting our face caved in. But, like, that's not necessarily how the third period went. It's crazy.
And credit to them. But this is why I started to get annoyed in the second period, because I was like, okay, the fourth line was great. The fourth line, would you care to guess how many minutes the fourth line played, all 3 of them on the ice at the same time at even strength last night?
In all 3 periods?
Yeah.
5.5 minutes.
6 minutes, 37 seconds. So, like, okay, cool. Your fourth line played really, really well. They also were never out there. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that there were a ton of penalties in the first period. I get it. But, like, that's why you can't win with one line going and it being your fourth line. Now, in contradiction of what I said, Kopitar, Panarin, and Kempe also had a strong showing. But the Byfield line was hemmed in their own zone a lot. They had a couple opportunities, but the Lawton line and the Byfield line are the lines that got beat up the most. And, you know, it's rough. So we go to second intermission, and this is where the notes really start to fall apart. There was that goal, or it wasn't a goal. The puck was on the outside of the net.
Yeah.
Colorado thought it was a goal. And they scored, and I had that moment where your shoulders slump and you're like, oh man, no. And then they called it back, and I was almost like, oh, come on. Like, just give them the lead and let's be done with this. Like, I was almost disappointed that the game was going to keep, like, that I had to be stressed out at a 0-0 score for a little bit longer.
I felt like it reeked of just how, like, Colorado wants to take shortcuts and, like, desperation of, like, not desperation of, like, that they, you know what I'm saying? Like how you were describing it before, where you were saying, well, Colorado feels like they can just show up and it'll be, and they're giving effort and they're the better team. But, like, it felt like, oh, look, that went in. That's ours. We're rightfully, you know, like, we should rightfully be winning this game because we've been the better team. And it's like, nah, dude, it went off the side of the net. Like, why'd you ring the goal horn? Why did you celebrate? Did you?
I mean, to be fair, it did look like a goal.
I mean, it did kind of, but like I would give Drew credit where like the entire
He
time he's
knew
like, dude, that
instantly.
didn't
Yeah,
go
that's
in.
true.
Yeah. And so like if he knew, then I think Colorado, that's one of those like fake it till you like, oh, let's celebrate and act like it went in. And it's like, nah, dude, it didn't go in. Like maybe actually score. But
So the next note I have is Clark whacked, Byfield misses another chance. And this is the net front scramble where I'm blanking on the Colorado defenseman's name who lifted Byfield's stick.
I think Malinsky.
Yes, thank you, Malinsky. And this is one of those moments where, it's another moment that Byfield had an opportunity to score. But also, it's another moment where you go, okay, for all of the praise that we're heaping on the Kings for outworking and out-muscling and out-toughing and showing up and blah, blah, blah on the Avalanche, they're there too. Like, that as much as you could pin that on Byfield, what an incredible play by Malinsky. Because Byfield does get past him. He does use his physical frame to create the opportunity. It's just Malinsky didn't give up on the play.
For all the strength that the Kings have shown, I think late in the third period and overtime in this game, they weren't strong enough in front of the net, whether it be their own net or the offensive Colorado's net. Because on that play, obviously a very great chance. And I do have to say, I don't know if you maybe wrote this down in your notes. And if you go back and look, it's dicey. That play, if the puck goes in there, there's a good chance goalie interference is called.
Yes, I did.
There was a lot of interference there. Yeah. So I went back and watched. I'm like, can I really be that upset about it? Would I have been more upset if it goes in and then we have a review and then it's a goalie interference? So I was like, okay, but also just going back to the strength, like that is where those type of games are won and lost is at the net front. And for all the strength that the Kings have shown and the physicality that they've had in the series, that is the most important place where you need to put that physicality is in front of the net. And the game was lost on plays like that where the Kings weren't strong enough in front of the net.
Yeah. Now, this is where I contradict my earlier comment about Byfield, because the next note I have is saying that Panarin scored. The next note is just, well, I guess that's why you get a guy like Panarin. Because
why does that contradict Byfield?
Because, and this is the next note.
Okay.
The Byfield wall battle before Moore's set up to Panarin will go unheralded. Byfield winning that puck battle, that board battle, keeping the puck in the zone as it was rimming around the boards on its way out, and then fighting off a Colorado player to keep the puck and then get it down to Trevor Moore. It shows up on the stat sheet as a secondary assist. That is a clutch play, right? And so I was saying earlier, like, oh, I don't know if he's clutch or whatever, but like that's a clutch play. It's not a clutch goal, but it's a clutch play, and the goal never happens without it. And even on the telecast, they were praising Moore for his receiving the pass, corralling it, spinning around, finding Panarin, and obviously Panarin's shot was great. But like all of that is set up by a board battle that had to be won and was, and good on Byfield for winning it.
And those are the plays that he has really, I think, developed. Like, I don't know that he wins those type of board battles 3-4 years ago.
Yeah,
so like we can certainly see the progress there. But I think it's not contradicting yourself because, and I understand why you can say that's a clutch play. Look, it's a 0-0 game late in the third period. You need a goal, you make the play. Awesome. But I need to see that when it's him shooting, when it's his, like there's a difference to winning a battle and then dishing it to an all-star. Or, even Trevor. There's a winning the battle and dishing it to Trevor Moore, who's your line mate. That's awesome. That's a hard-working effort play. That's a really crucial play. But it's different than, like, being the guy on the moment. Like, that wasn't a moment. It was only a moment because Panarin. It was only a moment because of Panarin.
because
of the
moment. Trevor Moore made sure, yeah.
Like, when we need to see the next evolution of Quentin Byfield when it's his moment. Because that's Panarin's moment.
Yes.
And that's why, because if it's not Panarin that gets the puck, Jesse, it's probably just a throwaway shot that doesn't go in.
That's fair.
He has to shoot that.
Yes. And look, on the night, I still think moments capitalized on and missed for Byfield. It's still like 3-1 because there was like another opportunity that he had where he coming in on the left side. But I just wanted to give him.
He's not going to score on every single one of them. We know.
I didn't want to
not
beat him up completely. Like,
no,
I thought it was,
and
I don't think
we're
really
beating. I don't think we're beating, because the reality is, like, the more of these moments or opportunities that he has, he's not invisible. Like, how many games have people complained that they're like, "Where is Q? I don't see him out there. He's not doing anything." He's in the mix. He's in this. Like, this is where we want him. This is where he needs to be. It's just now it's the next step of, like, okay, now you have to be the best player in those moments. You have to put yourself in those situations. You can't just play on the outside. You got to win battles. You got to be physical. You got to defend, which he's clearly defending well against the best team in the on offense in the league. But it's okay. Now it's, can you, and that's what we talked about coming into the series, right? Is like, how do you defend Colorado and also have offense? And, like, I don't know that this Kings team can. Like, it's looking like that's not possible. But from a QB perspective, he's certainly very involved, and he's doing the right things. He's just got to get to that next step of actually making them count.
And it sets up the sort of eternal debate in hockey, which is it better to create your own opportunities but fail to capitalize on them, or to never create them in the first place? Like, how many guys in the league never even get to a penalty shot or a net front battle where the defenseman comes from behind and lifts your stick and stops you? Like, tons of guys would never even factor into chances like that. But they also never get yelled at for blowing those chances, right? Like, the reason everybody remembers Austin Wagner is all of the breakaways that led to no goals. But there have been plenty of guys who played fewer games and had less of an impact than Austin Wagner, but just weren't fast enough to get those breakaways that they didn't score on.
Yeah, because you didn't expect it.
And you just never, like, I don't, like, and you just never think about him. Like, I don't know, number 20, Kai Nurminen. Like, who remembers or is mad about Kai Nurminen? Nobody. Why? Because he didn't get, anyway, whatever.
Well, that's your entire way of this whole show, is happiness is measured by expectation.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about right now, right? Yeah. Like, your happiness of Quentin Byfield is measured by the expectation that he's trying to live up to Anze Kopitar, the greatest king in LA Kings in the team history. And that's where he was drafted to be that. And, however many years, 5-6 years into his career, whatever it is, like, everyone's expecting this level of stardom and clutchness and all these things. It's like, but, if it was just another dude who was a center that was a top 6 center, I don't think we'd have all these expectations heaped on him, and there wouldn't be, this type of discussion with him.
So the last note I have is literally the last note, because I didn't write any notes in overtime. Ceci blows a clearing attempt, combines with Lawton on sloppy net front coverage, 1-1 game. I saw a lot of people arguing over whether or not that was a good play, or not even. I mean, obviously it wasn't a good play because it resulted in a goal against. But I saw a lot of people arguing on Twitter over whether or not it was the right play.
The CC rim,
the clearing attempt. Yeah, no, CC firing the puck up the boards from behind the net and not clearing the zone on it.
Well, it was the wrong play because look at the result.
Yes,
but I also, that's where it's sometimes tough for me in that, like, I don't want to just kill CC for it, because what if that's what he was, that's the play. Off the draw, it's like, hey, rim it, and we're going to get a forward up high to deflect the puck, get it out of the zone. And that does work sometimes. But the problem is there was nobody there. There's nobody on the top.
What if Colorado doesn't keep the puck in? Like, what if it does? And I hate to be that what if guy, but, like,
no, I know.
If it clears the zone, we never talk about that play. It just becomes a clearing attempt, maybe an icing, I guess.
Clearly, like, everyone's just wanting to put blame on, and you mentioned Scott Lawton. So here's where I have a hard time with this. Like, obviously Lawton needs to make that play in front of the net defensively. Like, you can see it. But, in credit to, I was listening, I don't know, probably just because I was in a state, but I was listening to our Lord and Savior, Sam Boney. So, but what Sam said was Scott Lawton wins that faceoff back to Cody Ceci. Right. The only reason the Kings even have if Scott Lawton lost the faceoff, it would have been a completely different play. He does what his job was there, win the faceoff. He thinks the team has possession, so he's now trying to help break out of the zone. Ceci rims the puck up the wall, And then it's like, I'm out of position because he didn't anticipate the change of possession there. So now Lawton obviously gives the correct effort to get back, but he was already out of position, and Colorado transitioned that play so quickly that he was caught. And so you see the end result of him being out of position in front of the net. But then you could say, well, the only reason he was out of the position in the first place is because he won the faceoff and he was doing the play of, hey, when we win the faceoff, this is where I need to be. And that's the change of possession put him out of position.
And that's why my takeaway from the entire sequence is you can't have only a 1-goal lead that late in the game because stuff happens. Reads get read wrong. You're up against the number 1 seed. They are clutch. They score. They win at home. Blah, blah,
I know.
blah.
And that's why I have no time for this simpleton way of thinking of like, the Kings can never hold on to leads. The Kings can never hold on to leads. I don't want to hear that. If the Kings blew a 3-goal lead, I'm right there with you. That's unacceptable. You're playing the top offensive team in the NHL, which you have held off the score sheet for the entire game. You know you're not going to shut them out most likely. And if you do, you got to score more than 1 goal and beat them down. Like that is a fluke type of a turnover. It's a quick transition play. It's going to happen. For the Kings to really beat the Avs, they have to be ahead by more than 1 goal. They have to score more than 1 goal. And so I'm not here to beat people up for, they blew the game, because they never really had it in the first place. Like, yes, they were winning 1-0, but even if the Avalanche didn't score on that play, Jesse, do you think they're not going to pull their goaltender, get a 6-on-5, and get 8 to 10 more grade A chances right at the Kings net? And maybe they score on that one. So it's like you have to score more than 1 goal. That's really the end of the day.
And I didn't write this down, but I mean, just looking at the score sheet, it's Landeskog from Natchez and Taves, which is, I think, the first goal from anybody with a name that anybody cares about from Colorado. Like it, you know, so they have talent. They have guys that know how to score. It's going to happen. It was deflating, but then it goes to overtime, and obviously, you know, look, overtime is overtime. Literally anything can happen. And part of the reason I didn't write any notes, and I decided in advance that I wasn't going to write any notes, is I don't think there's much to be learned from playoff overtime. Because how many games have you watched in your life? Doesn't matter what league, doesn't matter. I said this last night on the postgame show I did. Doesn't matter what tournament, doesn't matter what level, doesn't matter what league, doesn't matter what format. Overtime, the dumbest stuff happens.
It's a fluke. It's a fluke game. Yeah.
Goals get scored in weird ways, and you cannot sit there and go, all right, well, we've got 15 minutes to get it back, or we've got 5 minutes. Like, no, game over, boom, you're going home. That's it. You're done. And the one example of this that sticks out in my mind forever, and I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, I think it was like a 6 overtime game against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And I think it was Keith Primo.
Keith Primo scored the game winner.
Yeah, comes down the wing after his team's been hemmed in his own zone for however many minutes, comes down the wing, just flips a shot, just casual as could be, goes in, game over, boom, that's it. So overtime, you're like, all right, what are you going to do?
You know, I know what's funny about that series is Pittsburgh was favored in that series. The Flyers went down 2-0 in that series. That was game 4.
Oh, God.
The Flyers ended up winning that series in 6 games, and that was their comeback. And I don't think they were necessarily the better team, but no one remembers the Pittsburgh Penguins that year. And everyone remembers John LeClair and Keith Primo and Jeremy Roenick and that team that was a great story in the playoffs because they found a way to get it done. So they had to play 6 overtimes to get it.
Yeah, which I was talking to a newer fan who was like, wouldn't it be cool to see a record-breaking overtime game? And I was like, no, because we were talking about 7 overtimes, which is 2 extra games on top of the first game. Like, I don't need to sit through three low score. No, thank you. I would prefer it be done in the first overtime.
Well, I was... You know, I think I was in middle school at the time of that game, and so like trying to stay up. Obviously, I didn't make it that late, but like, you know, battling with my parents to stay up for a game I wouldn't have normally cared about, but I all of a sudden did because it was going to the 4th overtime or whatever.
Yeah, my mistake. It wasn't 6 overtimes; it was 5.
Okay.
My memory inflated it a little bit. But yeah, that was 2004, I think. But yeah, I mean, so overtime's crazy. The Kings, somebody said to me that they felt the Kings dominated overtime. I think that's a strong phrase. I wouldn't say they dominated. They certainly had chances. And I will say this, credit to DJ Smith. I don't know if this is going to wind up being a good thing or a bad thing. He's definitely not Jim Hiller. Like, the fact that the fourth line was getting multiple shifts in overtime caught me by surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to his point, like, if the Kings are a 3-line team, they probably get worn down and they're probably not in the series. So you got to play all 4 lines. I think he's playing the fourth line the appropriate amount of time. They shouldn't be like dominating ice time. Like you said, they didn't get a ton of ice time necessarily in the game, but they have to be a factor, and they have been a factor. And they're certainly not the reason why the Kings are down in the series, because it's the top 9 that's got to score the goals, right? So they got to find a way to break through. And to me, the overtime is just shoot the puck as much as you can, because you never know what's going to happen. And certainly with the Avalanche, that was an extended shift in the Kings zone. The Kings, I think originally people were like, oh, the Kings couldn't get it out of their own zone. They never even had possession during that shift of the overtime winner. Like, Colorado had possession the entire time, but they had about 4 or 5 attempts where they recovered their own attempt on this shot attempt that was either stopped by Forsberg or it went wide. And eventually, guy wins a battle in front of the net. And it's just, it's going to happen. The longer you play against Colorado, the more goals you're going to give up. But you got to capitalize on your opportunities, or else you're not going to beat the Avalanche. And the Kings have had those opportunities in both games 1 and 2, and they haven't capitalized on enough of them for them to come out with a win.
And this is, I mean, just realistically speaking, this is the double-edged sword of leaning on your fourth line. Again, they didn't play a ton of minutes, but out there on the ice for that game-winning goal is Sammy Elenius and Matthew Joseph. Not going to say it's their fault, not going to say that's why it happened, but the Avalanche fourth line was way better than the Kings fourth line in game 1. Obviously, DJ Smith trusts the fourth line. He throws them back out there in game 2. They have a much better game. But play them out there in overtime, and you're playing with fire, and they wind up getting burned, and now it's 2-0. Where do you come down on the sentiment that the series hasn't started until the home team loses?
I don't like that cliche. I don't like that cliche. Yeah. The series starts in game 1. I don't want to hear that. Is it like, whether you're home first or on the road first, you're trying to win every single game. This is the playoffs. Yeah. Like, that's just a way for people to keep their minds, and look, I'm not saying the series is over.
No, it's not.
The Kings are down 0-2, and the series has started. They are down 0-2. I don't want to hear this series doesn't start till you lose at home. Well, guess what? Right. If the Kings lose at home, it's going to be 3-0. The series is going to be basically over. That's right.
That's the thing that
so I don't know.
The series goes from not having started to being over in the course of one game, depending on the outcome. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
Yeah, those. If the Kings had found a way to win one of those games in Colorado, then the series would be 1-1. It wouldn't. Oh, the series has started now. A road team won a game. No, I'm not. But look, I mean, the Kings certainly, by not scoring more than 1 goal in each of those first 2 games, they certainly put a lot of pressure on themselves for game 3. The margin for error is basically none at this point, because the Kings have to find a way to win game 3 no matter what.
And I'm going to choose to ignore the Kings' home record this year and say that it doesn't matter. Hopefully I'm right.
It doesn't. At the end of the day, like, if the Kings won, beast. Even if the Kings had even a worse home record, it wouldn't affect any of what's going to happen in this series. Like, obviously it's not you would rather have some more confidence there, but I think the team is not going to come out being like, oh, we've been bad at home this year. I don't know if we're going to beat Colorado. Like,
right.
That's not going to be their attitude coming into the game. And so that's really all that matters.
The real question for me is, and this came up when I was talking to a fan last night. So they've obviously committed to a lineup and a style games 1 and 2. You're down 2-0 in the series. both games were close. You can give me all of we were right there, we had a chance to win both games if you want to, but the reality is it's 2-0 in the series, and you don't get to hang a banner for, we were in every game, right? Like the Kings got swept in 2018, and Kings fans will remember, I think the total goals in that series was 3-7 Kings for Vegas. And so you go like, okay, that's a really good series. Like it was, you got swept. So coming back home now for game 3, DJ Smith has shown to be a lot more reliable when it comes to his lineups than Jim Hiller ever was. Do we see a lineup change? Do we see a philosophy change? Do we see an approach change because they're down 2-0? Or is it, you know what, we believe in this system, we believe in this style, we believe in this lineup. It could just as easily have been 1-1 or 2-0 the other way, and we're just going to keep showing up. And if we go down with the ship, the way it is, so be it. But this is who we are. This is how we play.
So, excuse me for the cliche. I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place on this. Like,
sure,
I'm here preaching that the Kings need to score more than one goal to win, and in order to do so, certainly they could change the lineup and say Andrei Kuzmenko is an offensive player, and he is a guy we're going to insert in the lineup because we need more goals. And you can certainly make that argument, and I am not going to argue with somebody who says that. That is a fair argument. But for me, Andrei Kuzmenko has scored 5 even-strength goals this year. He is a more talented offensive player than Jared Wright or Taylor Ward or Alex Turcotte or Samuel Hellenius or Jeff Malott or any of these bottom 6 guys. Kuzmenko's more talented. I'm not arguing with that. It's not like he lit the league on fire. He had 5 even-strength goals. Right. Now maybe he'll help with the power play. Okay, fine. Who are you taking off the power play then? There's 5 forwards out there. You got to pick someone to take out. So there's that argument. There's the argument that he hasn't been practicing with the power play. He hasn't been practicing with the team. And my strongest argument for not putting Andrei Kuzmenko in is that he's not a defensive player. So is he then going to be the culprit of allowing more space for Colorado? Maybe he gives you a goal on the offensive end, but if he costs you 2 on the defensive end, you're still not where you want to be. So I think after thinking about this, like I said, I can certainly see the argument for changing the lineup because you got to have more offense some way. But in my gut right now, I would keep the lineup the way it is. And I would say that because the one thing you're going to have in game 3 that you didn't have in 1 or 2 is you will have the last change. You will be able to have those matchups. And clearly the matchups are close enough. You are right there. And so if your team is able to defend that well against Colorado, if they could continue to defend that well and the matchups swing just a few more things in their favor, that could come out with a win. And to me, if the team, and again, we have talked about already on this podcast many times that Colorado has been the better team and they deserve to have those wins. But the way that the Kings have played their style, it's kept them in the games to where they are one shot away from potentially winning those games. And so to change things just for the sake of changing them to try to make it better, I'm scared that it would make it worse.
That's the perfect, I think you just hit the nail on the head for me too, because I agree with you. And I think I said at the end of game 1, to me, it comes down to a question of hope and fear. And I would hope that they would play differently, but my fear is exactly like you said. You put Andrei Kuzmenko in, you play a more up-tempo, back-and-forth, high-paced game. My fear is you get your doors blown completely off, because Colorado,
there's a world that happens. Yeah,
exactly. And somebody said last night to me, I don't remember the phrase they used, but they were like, Kings are playing the way they're being coached to play, but that's why they're losing. And I was like, well, the problem is you can't rewind time and rerun the experiment, right? Like you get one game and the result is what it is, and that's what it is forever. And you'll never know how it would have gone if you'd done it differently. But I have to believe that the Kings brass put their heads together and said, you know what? Colorado is the favorite for a reason. We're the underdog. If we're going to beat Colorado, this is how it has to happen. And changing horses midstream.
the style of play has worked. Like, we've talked about all the open chances the Kings have had.
They're still down 2-0, so I mean, worked is debatable, but
what I'm saying is, like, you could have come up with another style and lost 5-2.
100%.
And you know what? During the regular season, that's exactly what happened, where the Avalanche were the better team all night. And I think the style when I say the style has worked, it's given the Kings a chance to win both games. No one can stand here and say that they haven't had a chance to win both games.
Right.
And this is a big if, but if they had capitalized on the chances that they earned, that they deserved to have in the offensive zone, they could have won either of those games. So to me, the strategy is not the reason why the Kings are down. They're down because of their lack of execution in those crucial moments from the strategy that they're playing.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, we're going to wrap it up here because we're coming up on an hour. Jared Shafran, thank you for joining me this morning, and I will see you at Crypto.com Arena Thursday night for Game 3.
Sounds good, Jesse. Thanks for having me.